The DOJ has launched an investigation citing a Mississippi police department where a chief bragged about killing an N word 119 times and has arrested a fourth of its mostly Black population. A Mississippi town that made headlines when recording of its police chief bragging about shooting a Black man 119 times went viral is now the subject of a damning new report from the U.S. Department of Justice alleging widespread civil rights violations. Lexington police have arrested roughly a fourth of the town's population since 2021 and levied fines of more than $1.7 million over that period, the DOJ revealed Thursday following a nearly 1 year investigation. That accounts to about $1,400 for every man, woman, and child in the Delta town of 1,200 residents located in one of the poorest counties in the nation. The money was used to fund the police department. From 2021 to 2023, Lexington increased spending on police from $662,925 to $965,130. Lexington has turned the jail into the kinds of debtors' prisons Charles Dickens described in his novels written in the 1800s, U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Mississippi Todd Gee said. Black residents, who make up 76% of the town's population, were specifically targeted, the DOJ said, and arrested for minor offenses such as profanity. That is not a crime. That comes as no surprise considering Lexington's recent history. So in 2022, Police Chief Sam Dobbins, appointed to the job 1 year earlier, was fired after he was recorded bragging about shooting that N-word 119 times. Okay. A year later, his tenure was cut short when a former LPD officer leaked an audio recording of Dobbins' comments. He claimed to have killed 13 people in the line of duty, said he doesn't talk to queers, and told another officer, "I don't give an F if you kill a mother effer in cold blood." The DOJ found the increase in low-level arrests targeting Black people coincided with the appointment of Dobbins, who is white. Under his leadership, the Lexington PD arrested an average an arrest rate more than 10 times that of the rest of the state per capita, according to prosecutors. Dobbins' second in command, Charles Henderson, replaced him as chief and has continued to foster a culture of abuse and harassment, according to community members quoted in the Justice Department's report. Local civil rights leader Jill Collin Jefferson was arrested in 2023 for recording a traffic stop. She said Lexington residents are essentially living in a police state, and this investigation is ongoing. Really, really terrifying stuff. Like the data is there, the numbers are there, the per capita reflections are there. Somebody was arrested for profanity. I can't imagine what was said that was worse than anything that that cop said on the audio recording. Tehran, what do you make of this?
I think that, duh, Mississippi's racist. There's a whole movie called Mississippi Burning. Like, the idea that Mississippi is racist is not something that's new. The fact that the DOJ did not do this sooner is something that I'm upset about. This should have happened at 118 times, or maybe 117 times, or probably after that first time that N word was shot. Statistically, what's going on in that area is impossible. $1.7 million of fines levied, especially when many of their constitutional rights are simply being trampled. All these people with the "Don't Tread on Me" shirts need to realize that the "Don't Tread on Me" means that constitutional rights should not be trampled on. And that includes justice for all, everybody. This reminds me of that movie Rebel Ridge that's out on Netflix right now. This corrupt police force that is brought down. There's money to be made. These townships are incorporated for a reason, and they're making money, but at the expense of others, especially when it's racially downing. We need to talk about this, America. The police force should represent the community in which they are a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's also something that doesn't really get talked about as much. It does get talked about, but maybe not as much. The fact that you mentioned this, that the money that the cities get is tied to how many people the cops arrest, right? All that money that they took in, it went straight to the police department. Why is that not an obvious incentive for people to just arrest people for whatever reason? And if there is no oversight, if the entire police department is corrupt, if the very top levels of the police department is corrupt, why wouldn't they just keep doing it and getting more money and just taking money from the people? They're basic it's like, in the feudal times when the king would just be like, "Oh, you owe me more in taxes." And then the sheriff would show up at your door and be like, "Hey, you owe us money." And if you don't get money, if you don't have money to give, then you just have to go to a debtor's prison and then you stay there forever because you can't earn more money while you're in prison. So I remember learning about debtors' prisons when I was in elementary school and thinking that makes no sense at the time. And, we don't have them anymore officially, but we do have them in practice. And it's funny that, Charles Dickens was invoked in all of this because I feel like that was something, we were talking about with the earlier story about how things that were happening in the 1800s are still very much happening today. Maybe we're just better at obscuring what's actually happening though, right? Like or I shouldn't say we are better at it. The people who are perpetuating these bad things are better at obscuring their actual intentions and their motives and the things that they're doing. They're better at hiding their bad behavior from people. And so it takes the public a minute to kind of catch on and be like, "Oh, why is this happening? Why is that what they're doing?" If you're a white person living in the small town in Mississippi, you might not notice what's happening in the Black community because maybe you're not as integrated in that community. And the people who are noticing it, they don't have a voice because if they use any kind of profanity, even the words coming out of their mouth will literally get them thrown in jail or, land them with a fine that they may or may not can afford. And it sounds like they can't afford it because what they say was one of the poorest counties. So, any last thoughts you have on that?
Dobbins is everything wrong with the police force in America. And the idea is that police should be arresting the bad people. Well, Dobbins was a bad person and needs to be arrested.
Yeah, and if you are a bad person and you want to do bad things, isn't there also an incentive for you to join the police force? There's nothing stopping you. They're not doing any kind of like character screening to become a cop, right? As far as I know, because there's a lot of bad cops out there. And if you want people who crave that kind of power, you already automatically should be skeptical of them. Why do you want that kind of power? Do you really want it to serve your community and serve and protect, and you want to be the guy, to be the hero and whatever? I would say that that's like a very small percentage of people who become cops for that reason. A lot of people, they get it. They become a cop because they out of high school, they join the police force, or they went to the military, they come back, they join the police force, or, they just want that power and they want that upward mobility to be able to do things. And they want the lack of accountability, right? That kind of power is intoxicating. And not just the power, but you're giving these people a deadly weapon with which they can wield. And you're saying, we're going to protect you if you do wield it and you weren't supposed to, or if something bad happens and you kill someone on accident. This guy, Dobbins, he's like a I don't want to diagnose anybody, but like that's like like psychopathic, like having zero empathy, having no remorse whatsoever for the fact that he's killed people and just talks about it so flippantly. He doesn't care that he is targeting people based on their race. He seems proud of it because he was bragging about it. That is not a normal human being to even have in a society, let alone to be given such a high priority, high powered role within a society.